Shalom, it's Izzy, your Hebrew teacher here, and this is Hebrew Chapters with Holy Language Institute. Read with me through the 11th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew in Hebrew. This is a translation of the New Testament into biblical-style Hebrew by Franz Delitzsch, a famous Christian Hebraist, which is like a Hebrew scholar, from the 1800s. Starting in Matthew chapter 11. Verse 1, let's read about Yeshua of Nazareth. Vayehi, and it happened, and it was. That's often how a Hebrew story or a narrative kicks off. Chalot, the verb there is chala, to finish or complete something. So chalot, when finished, Yeshua, how do we generally say his name in English? A lot of people say Jesus, but his name in Hebrew is Yeshua, and it means something. It's related to the Hebrew verb yasha, to save. It's also related to the Hebrew word Yeshua, salvation, which actually we will encounter in this chapter. So when he had finished, litzavot, the verb tzava means to command, to give an order. It sometimes in Hebrew has the sense of like giving a mission. So litzavot, or to command or charge. So when he finished commanding, charging, at Shneim, that's 2, Asal, 10, that's 12, Shneim Asal, Talmidav. The verb behind this word is lamad, to learn. Someone who learns, in the sense of a pupil, student, or disciple, is a Talmid. So here we have Talmidav, his Talmids, his disciples. Vayelech, verb halach is to walk or go. Vayelech, and he walked. Misham, from there. Lamed, there's that verb again. Remember, you just learned the Hebrew word for disciple, which is talmid. So here's that verb again, lamad, to learn. And in Hebrew, to learn and to teach is the same verb. It's to lamad, which is rather interesting, actually. What does that tell you about being a disciple? A disciple is someone who lamads, someone who learns, but as we see here, this verb also means someone who teaches. The likro, the verb here is kara, and it most literally means to cry out. Sometimes it's even translated as yelling or shouting in the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament. In this context, it has the sense of proclaiming or preaching. So he went to teach and to preach, ba'arehem. And al, or in il, is a city. So here we have Ba'arehem in their cities. V'Yochanan, and John, Shama, he heard. You may be familiar with this verb, to hear or listen, because it's the first word in a very famous passage from the Torah. In Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4, Moses says, Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel. And then the Lord is our God, that passage, and then it goes on to say, and you shall love the Lord your God. In Mark chapter 12, Yeshua said that's the greatest commandment. It's a passage that is prayed every day by observant Jews and repeated in the synagogue several times on Saturday morning in the course of the synagogue prayers. So anyway, here it's just used in the more common sense, John heard. But I thought I would point that out because maybe it's a word you already knew. Baveit, a bait in Hebrew is a house, a building, a facility even. So here we have baveit, in the house of hasohal, prison. Et ma'aseh, the verb asa means to do or act, or sometimes work, although there is another Hebrew word for work. So here we have ma'aseh, which is it's in the plural, has the sense of like let's say the actions of ha-mashiach. The verb mashach means to anoint with oil, in the sense of dumping or smearing oil on something or someone. In Hebrew thought, a Mashiach, someone who has been mashacht, anointed, is either a king or a priest. That's generally, if you are a Mashiach, then you are an anointed priest or you are an anointed king. So what does that tell you about Yeshua being called the Mashiach, the Messiah? He is the king, is how that would generally be understood in Hebrew, the anointed king, the anointed one. How is that translated in Greek? Christos, which is shortened to Christ in English. I think that's actually kind of unfortunate that he's called Jesus Christ in English, because Christ isn't an English word, it's a Greek word. It has a meaning in Greek, it doesn't have a meaning in English. People sometimes assume Christ must have been his last name or something, or it kind of takes on just whatever meaning someone makes up for it in their own heads. But in Hebrew thought it's more concrete. It simply means the anointed one, and it refers to a king. So anyway, John heard about the actions of the anointed one, the Messiah, Vayishlach, and he shalacht, sent, Shnaim, to me Talmidav, from his Talmids, his disciples. Vayomer, the verb amal, means to say, Vayomer, and he said, Elav, to him. Ha, ata. Now, ha on the front of a word usually means the, as in, grammatically speaking, the definite article. There are times at the beginning of a quotation or a sentence that it indicates that that sentence is a question. It's used as a question mark at the beginning of the sentence, and indeed that is the case here. So ha'ata means are you, who, he, haba. The verb to bo means to come. Here we have haba, the one coming. So are you the coming one? Im, or nechakeh. The verb there, chaka, means to wait expectantly for. Nechakeh means we shall wait. Here it has the sense of should we wait, la'achel, for another. So are you the one who is coming, or should we wait for someone else? Vaya'an, the verb there, ana, means to answer, reply, respond. So, and answered Yeshua. Vayomer, and he said, lahem, to them. Lehu, we already learned this verb. Halach means to walk or go. Hey, the first letter in this verb, is a weak letter, so it's dropped in the imperative, in the sense of him telling them to halach, to go. And we have lehu, you plural go. Hagidu, we have a similar dynamic with this verb. It's actually nagad, to tell. Nun is another weak letter, so it's dropped in the imperative, him telling them, you plural nagad, you tell, le Yochanan, to John. Et, so this indicating what they're to tell, asher, what shmatem, you have shamad, you have heard, uritem, and ra'ad, what you have seen. Ivrim, the verb there, aval, means to be blind, and iver is a blind person. Here we have ivrim, blind people. Ro'im, there's that verb again, to see, ra'a, but it's in the plural. They're seeing. Ufischim, now this is a fascinating one actually. It's related to the Hebrew verb for Passover, but it means a cripple. What's the correlation? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'll tell you. The verb there is pasach. Okay, I'll tell you in the singular here. Fischim is like cripples, people who are crippled. The singular is piseach, and it comes from this verb pasach, which means to cross over. So Passover in Hebrew is called Pesach, because God passed over the firstborn of the people of Israel when he came in judgment upon the land of Egypt and killed the firstborn of everybody who didn't have the blood of the lamb smeared on their doorposts. You know that story. It's the Exodus story. It's the Passover story. So anyway, what's the correlation? Well, if you're crippled in one leg, then you are passing over that leg as you limp along. That came to be therefore the Hebrew word not only for Passover, but for a cripple. So it's interesting how you have this Hebrew verb that is used in two very different ways that you would never guess if you just read the English. Anyway, so cripples, mit halchim, they are halaching, walking. Mitzoraim, that's a mitzorah is a leper, someone who has tzaraat, leprosy, which can be any one of a number of skin diseases. So lepers, mitoharim, the verb there is tahal, and it means to be clean or to be cleansed. So metoharim, they're cleansed. Thanks for watching this trailer. To get this whole talk in audio or video format, go to holylanguage.com and subscribe. I'll see you there.